Welcome back everyone to this video. I'm glad that you're here and thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I wonder if you can also feel the winter as much. I don't know, I really feel like everything's slowing down so much, and I think I didn't used to be as aware of it before, like how much the seasons really influence us, or at least I speak for myself, like it really influences me that it's winter now and I'm going more inwards and more, I don't know, there's less energy to be active, I guess. You might feel similarly. Yeah, and I'm doing my best to really appreciate it and honor it and just take it slow and just enjoy the little things and kind of try to embrace the heaviness. I don't know, maybe you feel similarly, I don't know. I actually even wrote a song the other day and it's called December, and it's a really good, to me it felt like a really good representation for what I'm feeling, and I might even share it on here, so I don't know, maybe. I think it's a really nice song, and I think people could enjoy it, so I might share it. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well and that your December is going well and that you have everything that you need and that your days have a lot of little moments of joy and that you have enough light and warmth and good people who give you comfort and yeah, all of that. I think that's, especially in the winter, I think it's important. Okay, so let's get into the next lesson. It's the number 13, a very magic number. And it says, getting to know and listening to my body changes everything. Getting to know and listening to my body changes everything. This morning I was thinking about this lesson and I thought, oh, what do I have to say about it? And then I remembered how, like, if I think about listening to my body, like just this word, like it's really incredible for me how my sense of this, like listening to my body, how much that has changed, and how little I used to listen to my body. Wow. And I mean, I think I say this again and again in every video, but it's all always connected to, or from my experience, it's all connected to so much to how I was raised, how I was socialized, and I really was raised, I think, as honestly most people, because most of us live in cultures that really don't encourage listening to our own inspirations or own intuition or own rhythm or timing, and really encourages this like rational way of living and like this is how it's supposed to be and you just have to fit in so that our society works, like all those things really silence this, our ability, or really dampen our ability to listen to our body. And so I really am very aware of how little I was listening to my own body. And yes, like body can mean a lot of things. Like it can mean just like your physical needs, like do I feel hungry, do I feel thirsty, does my body want to move, does my body want to rest, do I have like a headache or like a backache, or is there like something little that is hurting, or am I cold or am I too warm? Like those are all physical sensations, of course. And let me think of more things. Those are the main things that I can come up with right now. And when I think of like being cold, I always remember, like, when I was 16, I went to the US to be an exchange student, and I stayed there with a host family and went to high school there and just experienced the North American life for 10 months. And in the US, very often they have very ACs in the schools, like air conditioning, yes. And I was cold in school, like I remember. And I just remember that so well because one day we had like a day where everyone would like write on a piece of paper like one thing that nobody, like, that people don't know about them, and then we would like wear it around our neck like with a string and then walk around school and people could like see your things that nobody really knows. And it was kind of inspired by this, I think it was an assembly that we had before where a speaker was like talking about this thing that like you don't judge a book by its cover and you'd never know what's going on with someone. And some people wrote really personal, really deep things, and I wrote that I'm like, nobody knows that I'm always cold. And like, oh sorry, there's a dog barking, it's kind of distracting. I hope he's okay. And I just thought it was funny back then, but when I like reflected on it a few years later, I thought like that it's very interesting that I had this awareness, like I knew that I was cold, but I never did something about it. And I think that's so so telling of how little I was really picking up on my physical cues and really caring for them. And I mean, if I look back now, like before my depression, I knew when I was having a headache, and I knew when I was hungry or thirsty most of the times. So I had a pretty good connection to my body, like my physical needs. But I didn't do, I mean, yeah, I fed myself and I drank water. But often I would just like notice those things and not like do anything about them. Especially the topic with the being cold. And those were such huge lessons for me to relearn when I was during my depression, and I don't really know how it all, I mean, it connects because I had to slow down and I was really forced to meet my really, really emotional, really, really sensitive side, and there was so much grief and all that. So maybe because there was so much sadness and heaviness, maybe I was more inclined to kind of find ways to care for myself, I guess. But I had so many little moments where I felt like, wow, I'm really learning to really like prioritize my needs and my, like, just such small things, like when I would like go to bed in the evening and I was cold under the cover or under the blanket, my usual reaction before would have been to just like not care about it and just fall asleep cold. And I like those little things where I would like lay there and feel cold and then be like, Hedi, there is a blanket like 2 meters away. Just get it and put it like over your blanket, and then you will be a little bit more warm. And then I pushed myself to do it, and I did it, and I felt so much more cared for, and I felt like, yes, I just won, or I just grew a little bit more in being able to care for myself and to not only listen to my body, but actually do something about the things that I'm hearing or noticing. And maybe that relates to this first part of the lesson, getting to know and listening to my body changes everything. And it's really, like, for me, a big lesson of how just little changes and little things or little responses to my to my physical needs can really change my the way I value myself and the way I honor myself, and also like see myself and have an image or a sense of self-worth. One moment. Okay, I'm back. Ooh, I just heard my mom come home and just wanted to say hi and tell her that I'm recording so that she doesn't, I don't know, just like come in. Okay. And I think because I mean, with depression, like, there were so many unresolved emotions and memories and things that I had never had time to grieve, like, came up. So it was a very, very tender and very sensitive time, and I think and because of that, and because I didn't really know myself like that, and I didn't really know how to handle it, and then because of that, of course, I felt super insecure and super unsure about who I was and like where to go, what to do. Like, there was so much insecurity and anxiety and worry, and like I didn't really have, because before, in the years before, I was so self-confident and I had such a good sense of who I was and what I wanted, what I liked, what my dreams were, what my talents were, what my interests were. And like, with that experience of depression, that was all really kind of crumbling, because I got to know myself in a very, very new, very in a way that I really didn't know how to hold myself in. And I think because of that insecurity, like listening to my body's cues and like honoring them and like responding to them really gave me kind of a sense of confidence again in this time where I felt so insecure. So like this experience of being able to take care of myself and nurturing my body in the way that it needs it was super reassuring and super helpful, and really just gave me a sense of stability and sense of confidence maybe. And okay, even though there's so much overwhelm and emotional stuff going on, like I'm doing my best, and I can listen to what I need, and I can make myself food when I need it, and I drink water, and I really listen to my physical cues. And that's really like a practice. That's something that takes a lot of time, especially if, we learned, I'm sure, I don't know if it's so good to say we or general. I remember in the clinic that I was in, we had like a group therapy, like we had group therapy twice a week, sometimes even 3 times. And we had we had different therapists over the course of the 10 weeks that I was there. And one of the therapists always interrupted us when we would say, in general, or like, you just feel sad when blah blah blah, like when we were speaking in a general sense, because they said, please just talk about your experience, that's what we're here for. And so I always remember that when I speak about like things that are general, I try to dial it back to, okay, what my experience, because there are a lot of different experiences with all the different people that exist. No, I don't remember what I wanted to get to with that. Well, I'm sure it will come back over the course of the video. Yes, I wanted to say, like, growing up, I did learn. Like, I got a lot of things that I learned from, my parents kind of showing me how to do things, but mostly, like, I saw how they were taking care of themselves, and I just mirrored that. Like, this is how children learn the most, by, like, watching the adults in their life, or their caretakers, and seeing how they take care of themselves, and then you mirror it, or the children mirror it. And I mean, my parents, they did take care of themselves, and they ate regularly most of the time, and drank enough water, or just took care of themselves. So I, of course I had a base of and I had habits of taking care of myself and my physical needs, but there were a lot of things that were kind of a little bit more subtle, and a little bit more it kind of went out of this range of what I had learned of what taking care of yourself looks like. There were things that were outside of that range, and to relearn those things, and to really embody them, and to live them on a daily basis, really took a lot of took a lot of practice and a lot of patience and time, because I mean, we all know that creating new habits and changing something, it just takes time, and it takes attention and care and effort and energy, because it's something that goes out of our normal way of being. And especially for me, like, that's a huge deal for me as a woman, to take care of myself in my cycle, like in the different seasons of my cycle. My menstrual cycle was a huge new, like, eye-opener for me. I never, like, I learned about why I remember when I was little, I learned, like, we had a course in my school that was organized by our parents. Like, they had invited those specialists who were offering, like, a workshop on our menstruation and our period as girls, and I think I was maybe in 5th grade or something. And there we learned, like, that was my education on how my cycle works. And I don't even know if we learned, like, maybe a little bit about the hormones and like, what changes during our cycle, and the cervical fluid, what happens with the egg, like how it's being released, and then why, like, how the walls of the womb build up, and then, like, once the egg, like, once it's sure that the egg hasn't been fertilized, then the menstruation starts. And so we kind of learned the basics, but I mean, it was all new for me. I maybe had learned, like, a little bit from my mom, but, like, we had this one workshop, and that was pretty much it. And then I got my period when I was, like, 14, and I just knew, okay, I'm bleeding once a month. And then I knew, like, okay, I could get pregnant, like, in a certain time of the month, but I didn't even exactly know when or how I could track it. And so, like, learning about, I mean, I'm not sure, like, you who are listening, like, I don't know how much you know about the female cycle. Like, our whole hormonal system works differently to men's cycles. Men have, like, a 24-hour cycle, and we have that too, but we also have the circadian, I think it's, one is called infradian and one is circadian. I think the women's is circadian, and infradian rhythm, I hope that's right, is the one that just goes with the sun. that's a hormonal cycle that the men have and the women have, and then we have the circadian cycle, which is usually like it's about a phase of the moon long. And in that cycle, like so many hormonal changes happen, which really have, I didn't think I would speak about this now because I had another lesson on this, but those different hormonal times in our cycle really affect how we feel in our body. Like I feel so much different like right after my period compared to how I'm feeling now, like I'm right before my period. And it's, to me, it's insane that I didn't learn about this before and that I was just completely blind to the fact, and I was not at all connected to those different experiences. I mean, I was living them, but I would like, I don't know, blame them on like outside circumstances or not even notice them at all, because I mean, I was living, if I think about the time when I was in school, like I was living on this daily cycle, which is very like the infradian cycle of like you get up in the morning, you go to school, you have breakfast, you go to school, you come back, you have lunch, you do, I don't know, you do your homework, you hang out, you have dinner, and then you go to sleep. Like those were the cycles that I knew. Like every day is the same cycle kind of, and then there's the weekend and then the holidays, like things like that, but not this like biological cycle that I go through once a month. And I think this is such an empowerment. It's such an empowerment to know this, because then like I learned how to, I don't know, that different foods really help me in different times of the cycle, and how I can support myself in my body, like with different movements, or how I can work out in the different phases of the cycle that really support the hormonal time that I'm in, and that it's actually like natural and really, really important for me to rest, at least on my first and second day of my period, because that's when the body really, it's really in hibernation mode and like in this dark winter time mode. And that this like being sensitive and those PMS experiences or emotional stuff before the period is actually very much part of my cycle. And when I know this, I can so much better like have context and not like just be emotional and not understand why. Like I know, okay, I'm in my premenstrual time in the luteal phase, and that's why I'm feeling this way, and this is what I can do to take care of myself, and it's okay that I need more rest, like it's going to change again. I don't need to feel like I'm never gonna get anywhere, because now is my time to rest. And it was such a revelation for me and such a life-changing thing, which I was like so shocked that I didn't know that before. And for me that was really time of getting to know and then also listening to my body, and it like you like heard like before, it really changed so much for me. But of course this requires a lot of, first of all, knowledge that we generally didn't get in school, or I didn't get in school, besides this one workshop that was organized by our parents. And so it really takes a lot of effort and like reading about it, watching videos. I'm in this woman's group where we learn so many things, and and then it really takes like space and time and also like the capacity to like get to know my own body in a new way, and to really unlearn maybe the beliefs and the thought patterns that I held for a long time, and that now I wouldn't need anymore, because I know that about my body. Sorry, this sounds maybe a little bit too abstract. But for example, I grew up and I had this belief in me for the longest time that I should be able to work, not like work, but like my body and my capacity should be the same, exactly the same as the one of a man. And therefore I often felt inferior or not good enough when I wouldn't be able to keep up with the men that I was seeing. And that really like influenced my sense of capability and sense of self-worth. And unraveling all of that and understanding that I'm not supposed to be able to have the same capacities as men. And I mean, of course, this is like we have an influence over what we can do and what we can't do and what we desire to do. Like, we can of course influence that, but like my actual biology and my base, like my body, is really very differently designed to a man's body, and it's really beautiful that it is the way that it is, and that it just moves in those cycles as well. And there are a lot of things that I can do, of course, that men can do too, but there are other things that come supernatural to me because of this like cyclical way of living that maybe don't come as natural to men. And also there are things that men, like for example, they have much more muscle in their upper body, so like lifting some, like, I mean, I'm talking like generally, but like a lot of men have a much easier time lifting something heavy than I have. And that's totally okay. And like I think I really let go of this belief that I'm kind of inferior to men when I learned about just how different my biology is, and that it's very cool that it is the way that it is, and has a lot of wisdom and a lot of beauty to bring to my life, and that I can really appreciate it, that my body works this cyclically. Also, I mean, like, I think I can't really separate like my physical experiences and my emotional experiences, because it's all connected. Like when I haven't slept well, I will I tend to feel more like on edge, or maybe a little bit easier, like it's easier for things to annoy me or like trigger me or something. So like it's really interconnected, this like emotional stuff and physical stuff. And I think of like during my depression, I felt it's like, now looking back, I think I was aware in a sense, but it was so familiar and normal to me that I didn't really do anything much about it in the beginning. That like I was in a constant state of being overwhelmed. I think because my nervous system was so overstimulated, and I really didn't know, I wasn't aware of like how things were affecting me. So I was in a constant state of overwhelm, I remember that. And then slowly but surely I learned how to regulate myself and how to kind of make space for my softer side and set boundaries where I needed them. Oh my gosh, boundaries was such a huge topic for me, and I'm still learning. Because that's something I really didn't learn growing up, that boundaries are a good thing, and that you're allowed to set boundaries, and they're very needed and really matter a lot. And so what I wanted to say was that I was often feeling overwhelmed, like being in certain places, being around like more people, or in certain conversations, and just my nervous system was so overwhelmed so much. And and like when I maybe around when I started therapy, not even then, honestly, like not even in the clinic, because even in the clinic I was so, my nervous system was not well either, and I felt really overwhelmed there as well. I'm guessing maybe I started my journey like from like healing from depression, really from like a little bit from the spiritual side, because I was interested in those things in the beginning, but then from the head, like I really wanted to understand where's all this coming from, and my childhood and my environment and my boundaries, like really reflecting on a lot of things like with my head. And then only over time I really learned that I need to get back into my body and really feel what is happening and actually act on what my body is feeling and needing. That's such a huge lesson, really. It took me so long, and it's so interesting because oftentimes, and maybe you have this experience too, that you really, I mean, I already talked about this in the last lesson as well, but that you know something, like your body knows something, you have like, you know what your experience is like, and you think and you know in your head, okay, those symptoms are actually a sign that this is not good for me, or that this is too much for me, or even on the opposite side of the spectrum, that something is really good for me, and still you keep doing like the opposite. I don't know, maybe you had this experience. I like looking back now, and maybe I think maybe like healing and I think healing really has different layers and really goes like kind of is like an onion, where you peel off like the outer layer and then comes another one, and you go deeper and go more into your body. And honestly, I think, like if I look back now, like I started with I think I started like when I had my depression, I started to first go to what was most familiar, like going back to my family, because that was what I knew was like my safe space. Like I thought, okay, my family is my safe space, I know them, I love them, like that's where I want to be, which I think is a very natural response to when something happens that really overwhelms you. I did that and kind of like distracted myself with positive experiences with my family, I would say, which I think was really, it was the first step towards getting back to my inner grounding and inner peace. And then came like this I mean, there are always like little different things in between, but then like I did I went to Tizzy for those 3 weeks, but that was actually in the beginning, so I tried that, and then I went back to my family. Then I tried this sorry, I'm just like trying to remember the timeline. 18, 19, I did this design thing. Okay, then I'm like tried to do things, but I did that from the beginning on, like to do things that I really enjoyed, that gave me joy, like art and music and singing and those things. And then so I went back to what was familiar. Then I started therapy, which was a lot of like reflecting and really remembering things from my childhood and really going deep into why things were the way that they were in my life, but like a lot with my head and with reflecting. And that was 1920, a lot of 2020 was that. and kind of reconnecting with my inner child by like writing to her. Or there's like this technique that you can do, which I think is very cute, and I even have a letter still where I did that, where you write with the hand that you're not used to writing in. Like for me, I usually write with my right hand, and then I use my left hand and wrote myself a letter like from the view of my inner child. And because that, like, your handwriting is really crooked and like not perfect at all when you write like this, it's kind of easier to connect to your childlike side, or this is what they say. And it was really cute. I wrote a letter to myself from my inner child back then. Then like, so I kind of like connected to that side. And then 21, I think 2021 I wanted to like really build habits again that would give me a sense of calm and like a sense of structure, and kind of bring more structure and balance into my daily life. And like I did this job at this organic store, and yeah, it's really multi-layered, like this healing journey, I think. And I really focused on like making myself good food and having like a journal routine in the morning and doing some yoga and going running, I think, if I remember correctly, going for walks. So I was really trying to build like a daily life that was supporting my well-being. And then came like this interest in somatics and in nervous system regulation, where I realized, so I went from the head to my like environment, and then more into my body, where I learned more about how the nervous system works, and how a regulated nervous system really is actually the way to healing. Because when you from what I learned is when you experience trauma in your life, then your nervous system goes into survival mode. And actually when you I think you can go both ways. You can either do practices and things that regulate your nervous system, so that you're you put energy into from the outside regulating your nervous system, and by that your nervous system experiences again the state of relaxation and kind of is able to release some of the trauma. Or the other way is to I don't remember exactly how it was. To just release your trauma by facing the emotions that are attached to it, and then by that your nervous system is able to calm down a little bit more, I think. But I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure now. Please don't quote me on this. So after kind of setting up a better environment for myself, I did this thing with all the practices that I learned, like tapping yourself down or pushing against the wall when you feel really activated. And I became so much more aware of, I think because before I was in a super high alert survival mode state, that nothing, only very small moments made me feel calm. And then over time, by reflecting on my past and why I could be feeling that way, and that becoming aware of what aspects and things in my environment and life were affecting me a lot, I kind of became aware of what was actually stressing me so much. And then I kind of set up a new environment, or I tried to set up a new environment that was calmer, and then I experienced more moments in my life of this calm and relaxed, and learned and experienced again what it felt like actually to be calm and grounded, but just a few times. And those times became maybe a little bit bigger and longer, and then I was able to focus on the moments and the situations where I was feeling extremely overstimulated again, but they were already much less because it used to be my normal, so it was a really cool win actually. And then like I really learned those practices, those somatic practices of regulating myself, or like tapping here, or I had this thing that I did, like I did a few sessions with this highly sensitive or therapist who was focused on being highly sensitive people, and I told her that I often do this, like just a circle with my thumb in my hand when I'm in a place where I feel really overwhelmed, and that it kind of grounds me. That's what I do. I learned about humming, how that regulates my nervous system, like breathing in and then breathing out with your mouth closed. And it's called the bee's breath because it sounds a little bit like a bee, like this, or like a big sigh, like that's also really good. And shaking, I do that too. And those were such like just very short little practices that I would do like in my daily life, or when I was somewhere where I felt overwhelmed, and just like I would go into a separate room and do those things. So it became more like on the physical, like it was more focused on my physical experience and not so much like reflecting on my past anymore. And then and then I became interested in like the cycle stuff and learned a lot about my physiology and my biology, and maybe more detailed, like in a more detailed way, learned about just what happens in my body and how I can support it, and learn more things on how to regulate myself. And in this women's group that I'm in, just meeting with, like, we meet twice a month online on Zoom, just meeting with like different women, like with many women they're all from all over the world, and really connecting with them and doing like ceremony with them that alone is so regulating for me, and so I always feel so fulfilled when we do that. Oh, so grateful. And also I think like my therapy, like the therapist that I'm with now, I didn't even mention that last time, but like she is living in England, and we speak in English, like my therapy is in English. She has been so helpful for me to really help me reassure and acknowledge like the things that I'm feeling and that I'm experiencing, as like that they are actually real and that they're valid to be acknowledged and to be taken care of, like, and to be nurtured. And because I used to really, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, like when you're like, I grew up neglecting so many sides of myself, like all those sensitive sides, because that was the only way to survive in the environment that I was growing up in. So of course I had a really hard time, or it was very, very new and very just like not normal to me to validate my feelings, like those feelings, and to really give them space and accept them and honor them, and actually find ways to hold them and support myself in those times. And just having someone like as my support person who would really take my experiences very seriously and didn't belittle them or want to rush past them or something. And that was really, really healing and really such a relief for me and really helped me to do that for myself as well. That's been a huge support. And yeah, I think that's, I don't know, I hope that was kind of helpful. Wonder if there's something else. There are so many, like, I feel so much more like I'm in my body. I'm actually living in my body now than I did before. Yeah. Maybe it's not like easy to explain this, but I'm feeling much more settled and grounded in my body and actually feel what's going on and respond to it than I did before. I think before I was really a lot living in my head and in my mind before this depression happened, and like this depression really forced me to reconnect and drop back into my body and this human experience that I'm living. And to really acknowledge and value and respect my physical sensations and my what my body needed, and not, what's the word, reject it. And I think a lot of people, like in that time, like over those last years that I've been like doing all of this inner stuff work, the only people that were like that I was sharing like most of my like journey with were like my mom and my therapist. And the other people, like I told them, I don't know, my siblings or the extended family or friends, like I told them, of course, like parts of the story, but like the whole experience and like the ups and downs and all the facets of it, like I only shared with my mom and my therapist. And and I think a lot of people were like kind of confused of why it was taking me so long to get better. And I think that's such a, like, it's kind of a like looking at depression like something that is like a sickness that like comes upon you out of nowhere, of course, and then you have it and then you like deal with it or like take medication, get rid of it, and then you're finally normal again, or like who you used to be before. Like this idea is so not the reality of depression at all from my experience. Like it changed me on a level that's so profound and so like it really took the base of who I thought I was, shook it up, added a lot of new things and made it much more full and much more multifaceted and grounded. And now I'm building up like a whole new life on the base of this new sense of who I am, and that takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience and a lot of this slowness. And I think a lot of people were kind of getting frustrated with it because they thought, when is she finally ready to jump back into life as we are used to, or that we think she should do, or like the life that just everyone kind of lives. And I couldn't give that to them because I have changed so much and I will never live the life that people would expect me to live. I think I will like those lessons that I've learned to me are so precious and so profound and really changed how I view life and how I walk through life, in how I value and appreciate every single day of my life. And there's no way, never, that I would ever go back to who I used to be, ever. Like, who I used to be was like, she was doing her best with what she like had, like all the strategies that she had learned like to survive with were really helpful and really good for the time when she was growing up, but not at all helpful for her becoming an adult and now being able to make her own decisions and create her own life. And the life that I'm creating now is one that is so much more gentle and easeful and much more calm and really connected to my body and what my body needs and my emotional needs and my spiritual needs, I guess. And I know that I'm like, that I'm so lucky to be able to live this and to like if I lived in another time, I would never have been able to manage or to navigate through depression in the way that I did, and I don't know where I would be. And so I know I'm very, very lucky to have all the support that I had and the time and the space, and it's really not, I really don't take it for granted. And I'm getting a little bit emotional. Like, I have this belief that I had from the beginning on. Like, I felt like I had a very profound understanding of what was happening with me, like with the depression, and like maybe an understanding that I couldn't even maybe put into words like from the beginning on, but I always had the sense when I was really struggling that like this is really how do I say this? Like all those things that I grieved, or when like emotions that I went through and all the struggle, I always felt like I'm doing something that's so much more bigger than me, than just my own life. Like I really have had this belief and still have this belief that whatever we're healing or whatever I'm healing in myself, I'm healing for everyone. And like, as spiritual as this might sound, I mean it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Like when I heal this like needing to run, or this belief that I need to run to survive and that I can never relax, like this is the only way that life is, like you're always kind of rushed and need to survive and need to scramble and like really struggle in order to survive. Like, and then like there's someone like me who radically stops and really takes a lot of time to rest and recover and just doesn't run anymore. Like that has an effect on other people when they see like someone doesn't run like everyone else, like what is she doing, and they start questioning what they are doing, I don't know, and maybe they allow themselves for a moment to rest too and realize, wow, it's actually possible for me to rest too, or to relax and not struggle all the time. But I am, me being like the spiritual person too, I really believe that energetically, like when I heal something that's in me that's been like really holding me down, and then I heal it and feel relieved from it, that healing something for the collective energy too. yeah, and that really kept me, like, made me feel like I'm connected to everyone, even though I was spending so much time alone and in my home and very kind of isolated. This belief really made me feel like, okay, first of all, I'm not alone in this, and second of all, I'm doing it for, like, this is not just for me, this is bigger than me. And in a sense it is now too, because I'm sharing it with people here, and yeah, and hopefully you can take something from it that can really enrich or nourish your life as well. And so I'm passing it on, what I learned. Yay! Okay, is there anything else? Let me think. Getting to know and listening to my body changes everything. I think we actually, I was like, before I had this depression, I was really searching so much, like, for me, like, the big thing for me was like my work, and I wanted to do something that was so purposeful, and I really wanted to change the world and really have such a huge impact. And I was so, yeah, like, kind of searching for a lot of things. And I think coming back to my body and into my body gave me so many answers and so much peace and so much relief that, like, whatever I'm searching for is already in me. This sounds very, again, like, very spiritual, but like, I don't know, like, maybe the peace and the purpose that I was striving for, and the connection, like, it all was like a desire to find peace in myself and connection with myself and purpose in myself. Yeah, and just coming back to myself and to my body and listening to myself really gave me so many answers and really helped me to make decisions like in a much better and more grounded way, because I know myself, what I need, what I want, what I care about, what my limits are, what my capacities are. So it's much easier for me to make decisions now, and to know what is good for me, and maybe even who is good for me, and maybe who's not so good for me, and what is not so good for me. Because I think because I've really practiced to be so connected to myself, I very quickly notice, okay, how does my body feel with this person, or what impulse do I have when I meet someone, like to kind of back away or to get closer, or yeah, and I really listen to those things, and it really helps me to just like navigate and to sort through just a lot of things that the life just asks me to make decisions about. Yeah. So I'm really grateful that I learned this, and that I had so much time to learn this. And I really think that, and it's so kind of like, I think as children, like, we all have this, we have so much, we're so connected to ourselves, and we are so capable of knowing what we want, what we don't want, what we prefer, what we don't prefer. And like this whole, like, the way we're socialized, and like how, I mean, hope, I really have a hope, and I really see that a lot of parents now are really doing their best to really support their children in finding their own preferences, and their own that they're able to develop in a way that helps them to figure out who they are. And I think when I was growing up, there was not much awareness, or not as much awareness. And yes, of course, there were like parts in my childhood where, and a lot of aspects that helped me to know more of who I am, and encouraged me actually to listen to what I liked and what I didn't like. And but there were also a lot of things that were very just pre-set and decided for us, and like where it was clear that we didn't have a lot of influence over it, and we kind of, or I as a child learned to kind of neglect myself in those moments or situations in my life growing up, and kind of stayed with that way of being. And so I just wanted to say that like for me it was like a huge process of relearning and coming back to my natural way of being, I would say, and to kind of let go and release all of the patterns that I had learned that were not helpful for me anymore. And it kind of gives me hope to know that it could be so much easier if children like were supported like in this loving way, that I kind of had to reparent myself like in many aspects of my life. And that it could be much easier for children now to grow up in a more healthy way and not have to go through depression or like really a lot of years of digging and reconnecting with themselves later on. And I sometimes wondered, sometimes I was really frustrated, and I wondered if I had grown up in a very loving and super supportive and super emotionally capable household, who I would be now and how much further along I would be now. But then I thought, okay, but then I wouldn't have all this wisdom and experience of going through this journey now that I'm older, and really becoming aware of the benefit and the impact that, like, just experiencing it for myself, like me as my inner adult talking to my inner child and really recalibrating the way I speak to my inner child, how much of an impact that has. That taught me a lot too, and then gave me a lot too. So I think I can be at peace with myself, and I know like my parents and everyone around me growing up really did the best that they could, and it's always like we're always kind of learning as humans, and there's always chance to get better and more free, and so we're all doing our best, and this is what I got from my life for my life, and then I just did the best that I could with it. All right, okay, thanks so much for listening. I'm really happy that I got to speak about this now, and just reliving so many things by talking about them really helps me a lot to integrate everything that I experienced. And I'm really grateful that I am where I am now. I'm very, very proud of myself that I learned to live in such a new way that really nourishes and cares and holds my whole being in the best way that I can. And I really hope that you could take something from this video and maybe feel inspired to really honor and answer to the things that your body is telling you, and please feel free to let me know if there's anything that comes up for you. And I'm very much looking forward to the next video, and I hope you have a really nice rest of your day, and take good care of yourself, and see you next week. All the best to you. Bye.